So if I had to build my pipeline from absolutely zero today, no audience, no warm leads, no pipeline, this is exactly what I would do. I've generated over $10 million in sales throughout my career, and I've ran and hit a 7-figure business. And I can tell you that most founders overcomplicate this. In this video, I'm breaking down the exact roadmap to book 20 to 40 sales calls per month, the exact order I would do things in, what I'd prioritize first, and literally what I would prioritize later or completely ignore until a certain point. So the problem that most founders find themselves in is that they don't have the foundational work done, and this causes them to spray and pray and not knowing exactly who they're talking to, how to talk to them, and what it is that they're actually offering to that person. So they kind of skip that foundational work, and in that they are just speaking to everyone and actually not getting on any calls. Now, the other thing that they face and they keep doing is they try to do a lot of AI and automation tools. And again, they haven't done the work. So they're spending money on all of these strategies, these mentors, but they don't know what they want to do and how to do it. And unfortunately, it just means they're spending money on things that aren't actually fully formed, and it's just causing them to be hindered and slowed down. And the other thing is that they get very overwhelmed from all of the things that they can do, and it becomes ineffective for their efforts. You know, the more that they work, they're not actually getting any of the raw back, and this causes them to feel frustrated, stuck, and still relying on referrals to get any business. And this is what we want to avoid when we start from zero again. So from day one, and I'll be spending a couple of days on this, is building out my ideal client profile, who it is I'm speaking to. I'm going to create that avatar of that person, of the company size. I'm going to be working out how many employees that they have in their business. I'm going to be working out the role that they are going to be. So is this talking to directors, founders, entrepreneurs? Is it business owners? And the more I get granular on this, the better it is that I can actually start messaging these people, because I know who it is who I'm talking to. And this is important and pivotal. You want to find out alongside their, the key attributes. You then want to be working out their pains, their pleasures, their desired outcomes, probably other offers out there that are doing it wrong or what you can do better, and really build this list out so you know exactly what that person likes, what they don't like, what they're trying to solve. And then that way we can craft messages and also understand who we're talking to, which when we come to closing, we've actually booked the calls, is pivotal. So from then, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to create a targeted list, okay? I would start off by creating a list of 20 of your core client audience that you would work for your business or your offer, and build them out manually. Find and search for them. There may be people that you've already worked with, there may be people that you've talked to and that you didn't close, whatever. So then what we're going to do is we're going to target that and put that into a LinkedIn search, okay? And we're going to use all of the key attributes that we find in there alongside with the ICP that you built, and then we're going to target them on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. What I can then do from there is I can then start connecting with them automatically through something called Dripify or another automated software that allows me to send connection requests, about 20 to 30 a day. I can even like their profile, view their profile, leave comments, and then basically once they connect with me, I can then start messaging them, which I'll get into and break that down in a second. So once I have that list built, what I would then start doing is finding all the people that are engaging in any of my content, have liked my content before, I've messaged previously on LinkedIn, or they've messaged me previously on LinkedIn. Alongside that, I would be seeing who's viewing my profile on LinkedIn, because these are all insights that you get, and all these things are people that are willing to go onto my profile or engage in my content. These are potential leads, especially if they fit my ICP. So once I've got all these down, I want to go back to my LinkedIn Sales Navigator list and ensure that I have a list that's about 2,000 to 3,000 maximum. You can go a little bit more depending on your niche and your, what you do. And this is going to allow me to be hyper specific, so I know that I'm talking to the right people. Scan through it. Don't just accept what it shows you. Make sure that that is exactly who you want it to be. Add in some keywords like and or remove in the LinkedIn tab in the Sales Navigator. That allows you to then filter out types of titles. Like for example, you may not want solopreneur or whatever it may be. And then make sure you add that in there. And then once that's refined, this will consistently keep updating when LinkedIn finds it. And because you're sending 30 connection requests out daily, this allows you to connect for ages, and this ICP will build and build and build in your inbox. So once I've done that, and I've shortlisted 150, 200 people from all the people viewing my profile, from all the people engaging myself, from my Sales Navigator list, which is building over time, what I would then move into is creating my core message. This is exactly what I do, how I'm going to help the person that I'm trying to target. Now, I like to create this in like a mission kind of statement per se. So what we're seeing is I help the niche role sector remove problem and gain desired outcome by the solution that you solve in timed outcome. I love putting times down to what you achieve. It just allows people to visualize the kind of end result rather than having an open loop of how long that may take. So once I got that core message created, what I would then do is I would optimize my LinkedIn profile and make sure it speaks to that person. So this would be changing, making sure I have an appropriate image, a banner that talks to my ideal client profile, talking about this core message in there. Alongside that, any testimonials, client results, shared posts, saved into the profile, make sure the about me section is created, make sure my job description is created and is targeted. And this just builds that kind of front facing, customer facing shop that is going to speak to this person. So when they do land on your profile, it is optimized and well tuned to ensure, they have a good first impression. Now, what I would completely ignore in week one is I would not build a website. I would not bother with it. It's a waste of my time, especially with what I'm doing or what you're doing in a service business or consulting or founder business. It's not needed. All you need to do is start conversations or start building a network around you to start having conversations, because this is what's going to get you from 0 to 30 grand the quickest, okay? Alongside that, I would not try to create tons of content. I would focus on LinkedIn. I'll focus on that in a second of what I would then move on to. I would steer clear of complex systems. I wouldn't bother with any AI or crazy CRMs. I would keep it black and white, super simple, not overcomplicate anything, because the main thing is getting calls and getting the deals done, okay? And then I would not worry about crafting my perfect offer at this point. I would get my offer about 80 to 90% dialed in. It would not be perfect, because at this point I'm starting from zero. I would need to make sure I built an offer that works. I get feedback from that when I'm actually talking on the call, and that will allow me to move in and perfect that over time. So I'm not overcomplicating anything. I'm just getting what I need to start conversations to then book sales calls. That is the most important thing here. So before I start messaging anyone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating content to my ideal client profile on LinkedIn. Now, because I'm sending connection requests out automatically right now, I'm getting constantly new people visiting my profile. So I want to captivate that. Now, before I DM them, if I'm creating content, they can then see this before I message and get familiar with what I do and how I do it, and I get to know me a little bit more. So I'm not going to overcomplicate this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get into ChatGPT. I'm going to get my ideal client profile that I created from day one. I'm also going to do something that is allowing me to put in my beliefs. So building my kind of content reality around myself. So this is what I believe in, the people around me, the problems and the pains I've gone through, my core values and why I do this, why my offer gets results. Alongside that, certain kind of, no kind of bullshit realities that I have. So, I hate people that are doing X, Y, Z, D. All of this, so it gets to understand me as a person. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed this in AI, and it's going to create me content. Now, how I want to do my content is I want to do, let's say, I want to do 7 days a week, but let's just break it down simplistically, like it's 5 days a week. The AI will create you the content that you need. If you give it some guidelines, it's going to create this within 10 to 15 minutes. I have 5 posts I can do that's hyper specific to the person that I'm talking to. And alongside that, it's got my beliefs in there. It's not just made up stuff. It's literally only using what I would want it to do. So I'm just working smarter, not harder, okay? So I'm going to then do something called 2 share posts. I'm going to do 2 teach and 1 show a week. Now, this is different to top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, lower funnel. A share one is sharing my personal kind of story or my beliefs or what I'm doing or my core values. It's just getting a little bit more vulnerable so that people can actually resonate with me and see me as a human, okay? I'm then going to do a 2 teach ones, which is more specific on how I solve certain problems that my ICP is facing. And because I did that from day one, I talked about the problems, I can just get these created on tap really quickly. And this is more hyper specific on that problem and solving it, okay? This is not to get them to book a sales call. It's more so to get them aware that I know what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to do show. And this is going to be me showing my client results or showing my systems or showing what I've achieved or showing certain achievements I've had in my life that resonate with my ICP. Basically showcasing my skill set. Now in these, you can sometimes do call to actions to get them to message you. But once we pivot these together, super simple, super specific, I'm going to make sure that they're not too long. I'm going to make sure that the spacing is really good. We're using dot points where we can. And I'm always referring back to me first person. So I achieved this or I did this or I suffered with this and then target to my ICP. This is going to help resonate for the next step because it's a long-term play, but this can get you inbound leads. But this is more of a long-term kind of solution that we're looking for here. But this is critical, especially when you're doing LinkedIn outreach. So once I've got my content working, I'm scheduling that every single day. What I'm then going to go do is I'm going to start messaging people. Now I'm going to be messaging at least 10 to 15 people every single day. And you can do 20, but it builds up with the connection requests. Now, like every business owner, I get busy in the day and things start happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prioritize the thing that I don't want to do the most, and that is DMing. Well, let's be honest, we don't want to do it, but this is the best way that we're going to get results. So I'm going to wake up before I start work, let's say 7:30, 8:30. I'm going to send 10 to 15 personalized voice messages to my new connection requests that I have just got that are my ICP. And I'm going to be doing this every single day without failure, without doubt. And this is what I'm going to start booking sales calls with. Now, when we send this message, I'm not going to be boring. I'm not going to be like everyone else. I'm going to go in their profile, actually find something interesting and be a little bit funny. And if it's a post, I'm going to send it to them and say, wow, this is really cool, man. How do you do this? And I'm not going to do anything salesy. I'm just going to build a conversation, and I'm going to do this religiously. I'm not going to ask them pain questions. I'm not going to ask them, can I help them? I'm going to be hyper specific to build a relationship and a conversation with them. And the reason I'm doing this is that AI is killing LinkedIn. It is just making it saturated. If you become off human, you will get results. No one gets voice messages. So when you do this, you are guaranteed to get results, okay? Because it's different. No, everyone's just getting the AI stuff. So this is what you can commit to, and this is how you can start making money very quickly. So like I said earlier, wait 24 to 48 hours once they've accepted that request, so they can start seeing your content, especially because you schedule it daily, and it doesn't look too automatic or too kind of like straight to the point, because people get that. And again, it looks like AI. That's what we're competing with. And once they reply, just lead with curiosity. Keep the conversation flowing for around 3 to 4 messages. Maybe 2 can be the good time to pivot. But just keep curious. Don't look to pitch. Don't look to talk business. Just keeping it super curious so that you build that trust and they drop their guard, so they're not just feeling like you're someone else trying to pitch them straight away. Like that's what everyone's doing. And look, I'm not going to be perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to track everything in a spreadsheet. I'm going to see what gets replies versus what gets ignored. I'm going to look at what questions get the most engagement. I'm going to also look at what pain points resonate most with them. And alongside that, I'm going to look at the data to make sure that I can then see what's getting the best ones. So for example, let's say I send 30 messages and only 10 get a response. I'm going to see what I actually did in that, because that's a 33% response rate. Not too bad. Next week, I'm going to review my messages again and see, oh, I've only got 5. What did I change? Was it just a bad week, or was it something that I changed and I was testing that clearly showed that it wasn't working? So just track everything so that you know exactly what's happening and what's not working. So once I got them replying a few times, what I'm going to start doing is pivoting it to the business, okay? So let's say I'm talking casually to them. I'm then going to just go, I saw that you're running a consulting business. How's that going? And that's going to allow them to start talking to me about their business without just asking straight away about what I solve. And then whatever they come back with, this is where we start to turn it into maps, where we start asking questions to get them onto a sales call, because their trust is a bit more built. Maybe they've seen the content, who knows? But alongside that, we're not just doing what every other robot does out there. And this is allowing us to have a better chance than just those people that are trying to spray and pray and say what they do, which gets ignored 95% of the time. Now, the stats that I'm tracking to make sure that I'm on the right track, which is a pun, is I'm going to be looking at making sure that my acceptance rate on my connection requests are around 30% is great. 25 is not too bad. Anything below 20, you've got a bit of a problem. We want to make sure that that is on point. There's certain things that's going to be showcased and that's an issue. So for example, that list could be wrong. And alongside that, the ICP might not be dialed in. So we want to make sure that we're tracking that to make sure that it is, one, we're getting the connection rest, and 2, that we're talking to the right person. Alongside that, we want to make sure that we're having around a 20 to, I would be wanting to go for at least a 30 to 35% response rate, but initially 20 to 25 is not too bad. So we want to make sure when we send that first message, we're getting a response back. If it's lower, then we just need to make sure that you need to change that message. And if it's higher, fantastic, keep doing what you're doing. So from all those people that have responded, 2 to 3 of them should be able to get onto a sales call. Doesn't mean that they will get on a sales call, but they should fit the profile. You're just maybe getting better at the offer and wording and testing to see them get on that call. But this is what I would be expecting, where 2 to 3 of them should be able to get onto a sales call, and then we build that into closing them in due course. And this is normal to expect in the first 3 to 4 weeks. It's just refining everything that you're doing, and then what you'll see is that quick uplift in results. So that first 2 to 3 week window is that little grind area of ensuring that it's working, testing, seeing and getting the feedback, and then from there we start to scale it outwards. So you now have the foundation initial outreach system, the ICP clarity, targeting list, daily actions, and the routine. But here's what happens. Most founders start strong, get a few responses, then get overwhelmed trying to maintain it, or don't stay consistent because they don't see out the full process. And this consistency breaks down and they're back to square one. And that's what the 5-hour sales system handles. We build this complete pipeline for you in the 90-day period. The targeting, the outreach, the follow-ups, the proper system to get you to the 5 to 10 sales calls a week. If you want help implementing this system, links in the description. Now, I wouldn't just first message people. If they don't respond to me, I'm going to be making sure that I follow up with people throughout the process as well. So if they don't respond to my message, so I got that 30% response rate, I'm going to make sure that every 24 or 48 hours, I'm going to follow up with that person that ignored that first message by simply just saying, hey, just nudging this first time. And then the next time I may send them a message about another post or another comment that they've done and start that conversation normally. Now, again, there's advanced strategies in this as well. If they're kind of middle of the conversation where we haven't moved to kind of progressing them onto a sales call, then if they just ignore that message and I nudged it once, I may 4 or 5 days later, I've set a reminder in my system and I will then follow up with them by posting, a post that they sent or a comment or something that I saw that may be interested to them. And I would send that to them rather than just trying to, do another outreach message. This is different. This shows the consistency. I've had sales calls booked from bloody October and we're almost at the end of December because I just had conversations or reminders with them, and people get busy. Think about yourself. People message you on LinkedIn. You may not respond to that. So we need to make sure that we're following up with them. And this is super easy. How I structure my days, I do outreach first thing in the day, like I discussed. I will then do follow-ups middle of the day, and I'll do follow-ups in the end of the day. And then I will also just do my normal messages throughout that day as well. So normally what I'll do is do 12 o'clock follow-ups and then just respond to the conversations, and then vice versa later on as well. Super easy, not hard, super, within an hour a day. And this is what we can get the 5 to 10 sales calls with. So once we've got the follow-ups done, let's say we've got the first outreach done, how the hell do we book them onto a sales call? Well, what I'd be doing is I'd be following a MAPS kind of structure. And what this does is this allows me to now, once I transition into business, once I've asked how their business is going, or once I've asked, I saw that they were doing this, or what's their goals in 2026, or anything relevant that's talking and pivoting to it about business, I'm going to move it into MAPS. Now, MAPS allows me to framework this and get them from pain to booking on a call. And how that looks, okay, M stands for we're mapping the pain. Now, what we're doing here is asking certain questions that get us to understand what their pain point is. So in this, what we may do, so for my business, people want to book sales calls, they don't have sales calls. I may ask them specific questions about like how many sales calls are they booking a week right now? And they may say, I'm booking 3 sales calls. What I would then want to then do, once I've got that question done, is I would move them onto aspiring the goal or aspiring kind of where they want to be. And that's the A in the MAPS. This is talking about where they wanted to go. And I'd ask them the question like, how many sales calls would you want a week? This sounds very simple, but this is exactly what you need to do, okay? Then from there, I would then pinpoint the actual kind of route that they want to get to. And that's P, where we're pinpointing the actual problem. So I would then transition and say, like, curiosity wise, why are you not booking those right now? And they would say X, Y, Z, D. And normally that's saying because they don't have a system or they don't know what to do or they don't know how to do it. From here, this is when I can then offer them the call. And I'd be basically saying here, I'd be curious to see if my system to help you book 5 to 10 sales calls a week would be able to work for you because it's working for other clients. Would you be keen for a call? Now, what I've been able to do, and this is why I like MAPS, it's able to define their problem, get them to talk about where they want to be, and get them to tell me why their problem is affecting them or why they're not achieving that. And then when I then talk about what I can do for them, they're obviously keen and they want to jump on a sales call, and then we can talk to them. And then when I'm on that sales call, I know what their problem is and I know what they want to achieve. So then my offer just needs to do both of those, solve that problem and achieve it. And then they pay me. And that's how simple it is. And that's what we're trying to do in the DMs the whole time. Now, if you ask a MAPS question and they don't respond, then we go back to following up where we nudge it, just nudge that in 24 hours, 48 hours. If they ignore that, send them a curious post and keep the conversation going. You may need then to talk casually and not then go into doing MAPS again or asking business questions. You may need to talk casually again. And then you go back into MAPS when the time is right. It's a game. You kind of balance it. When something doesn't work, you then try something else. And this is why it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It doesn't have to be all this fancy copy. It just needs to be able to follow a system that gets you there. And this is what I'd be doing every single day to get the calls booked. Now, the first couple of weeks of doing this, you'll get sales calls booked. You'll probably have 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, some people are different. By a month's end, you'll start to feel that effect of having the 3 to 4 sales calls or 5 sales calls a week doing this. And this is going to easily be generating you business. Now, you don't need to have everything perfect to do this. You do not need that perfect offer. You don't need the perfect message. You don't need the perfect voice message. You don't need the perfect bloody profile. You just need to do it, because the more conversations you compound and the more content that's going out, the easier it is, because you're getting the feedback from every message and every time you do something. Because once you start following maps and then you're progressing them there, you can start seeing and recording when people drop off that kind of system. And what that allows you to do is see what questions, one, book them on a sales call, and processes of questions as well, because it may just be a multitude of them. And 2, what stopped it. So a great one in my business is I was having a question that I kept having my seller ask, and it would never book sales calls. So I just said, never ask that question again. It was too complicated. It was getting them to think about, you know, like really think about the answer. And it just needs to be so basic where it can fit on one sentence that they can answer straight away like you'd ask in a pub. The best way I can explain it. Not overcomplicate it like you're talking to them in the pub. And this is what gets the conversations going and juicy to the calls. And the ones that work really well, screenshot these and copy it back into ChatGPT. This is what I'd be doing, so I can then get my content dialed in that's going to help move the conversations going, because I know the words and the problems that they're talking about. And any objections that you keep getting, work out what they are and then feed that back into AI and make sure you understand that, because then this is now something that you need to overcome. And this is what I'd be doing constantly to get the sales calls booked. I just a constant system of information that gets me to A to B and allows me to understand exactly who I'm talking to and what they need, so I can then get them on a call. Simple. Again, I'm not overcomplicating this. It's just simply repeating what you need to do and what they're saying to you to then get them on the call. Nothing special. So once I've recorded this, I'm doing my 10 to 15 DMs a day. I would start ramping that up and start going to 20, 25 a day, and start then now messaging all the people viewing my profile, viewing my content, liking my content, all of that. I would ramp this up more, and I'm probably going to be at 5 to 6 sales calls a week right now. I probably would have closed 2 to 3 deals, making 10 to 15 grand a month. This is what we then do. We turn the tap on, and now we have all the information. I've done 10 to 15 sales calls, maybe a little bit less coming into week 8. And then from here, what we can do is we now have sales calls of 40-minute conversations or 30-minute conversations of the exact pain point words they're using. I'm feeding this back again and again and again and again. As you keep seeing me repeat, I'm just constantly refeeding the system. I would start by then tracking as well response rates, not response rates per se, but like certain sections that are going to cause the best kind of outcome. So rather than just tracking response rates and acceptance rates, I'm now going to be tracking reply to calls booked, calls offered to calls booked, and then obviously close rate and everything as well. Because what I then can start seeing is where in the system is it breaking. If I'm getting a lot of connection requests and a lot of responses, but then no calls kind of booked from those responses, I know my messaging in between is not working. And I also know if I'm offering the call and then not booking a call, either my follow-up's not good or there's something wrong with my, maybe I'm jumping the gun too early, I'm getting a false yes, which is possible. And I want to then kind of tie back a little bit and then offer the call a little bit later. Or do I need a sales asset that's going to help clear an objection? And what I can do is I'm booking 10 calls or 5 calls. If I'm getting a really low close rate, it may be that they're getting on the sales call and they're not warmed up enough. I need a sales asset like a YouTube video that I can send to them so they can start watching this and understand what I do before they even get on the call, and then they're more likely to buy rather than being a cold call. There's so much that goes into it once you start getting it working, but as you can see, it's a constant system just repeating back the information, collecting real data, and then just extrapolating that and doing more of that rather than overcomplicating it and just starting to do stupid stuff. Now, once I've got that down, I'd move on to making sure that I'm qualifying people as well and making sure I'm actually speaking to the right person. So I would have a list of things that I want to make sure they have before they jump on that call and start to get a little bit more brutal. I'm going to ensure that they have the right amount of money that they have to invest. I'm going to make sure that they have certain parameters that they understand that they need to be showing up on the call. They need to be in a position to buy. They also need to be in a right mindset and willing to crack on and have certain things that they need to be doing. And I dislike having people that want to have guarantees, not because I don't think a guarantee can work. It's just because the clients that want the guarantee normally are the ones that don't believe in themselves, and they're the ones that tend to be a little bit more slow. When I want to work with people that are guaranteeing that they're going to put their 100% effort into this because they actually want to change their life. And you become a lot more stricter when you come into that week 4, 6 with this, because initially you just want to get the calls and understand the offer and get practice. Then you don't want to waste your time. So do not jump on calls with people that are not willing to buy or want free information. If It's better to book 5 calls than to book 15 unqualified calls, waste time, and feel like you're the problem when they're actually the problem. Now, let's be honest, I or anyone doesn't want to be doing DMs for the rest of their life. So I want to be handing this off as quick as possible. So now I'm up to that 10, 15, 20 grand a month, maybe even more. I want to get an appointment setter in that's going to be able to do all of this for me so I can focus on big vision stuff, more marketing, alongside that, focusing double down on creating the content and still jumping in doing voice messages when it's going to help progress the sales call. So because I've documented all of this and I've got all the information that we've been tracking and putting into AI, we have the SOPs that we can create to then get someone in that can just rinse and repeat the system that we've just used or I've just used. And then that takes and frees up all that time, and then they can double down on following up and also doing new connections and new business development to then increase and extrapolate this further. So when we get that appointment setter in, we want to make sure that we have it all documented, because if they just start doing stuff, the results are going to drop, okay? But now we need to manage them, and we want to be booking in a daily call with them, ensuring we're checking everything. We want to cross-reference and check that they know what they're doing, and then we just scale it from there, and we don't have to do that anymore. Now, what you want to be tracking is you want to have common follow-up methods and time frame. You want to make sure that you have structured maps framework, or kind of structured questions that you know work when they're asked, they book on sales calls, rather than just them sporadically doing it. Alongside that, you want to have templates for them to track and make sure that they're tracking all their results, and then a systematic or structure to their day of when they should be doing follow-ups, when they should be doing initial conversations, when they should be scraping leads from your likes, connections, follow-ups, all that type of stuff. You want to make sure that's boxed in so they have a schedule, so they're not just sporadically doing everything, that you can then work with them to get them booking either more or the same sales calls without you doing that work. Now, what that looks like at week 12 is that you should be having 60 to 80 personalized messages going out every single week, if not more, and that's consistently. You have 5 to 10 sales calls, qualified sales calls, booked onto your calendar, which is generating you cash rather than just having false calls. You have full, clear clarity on your messaging and your ICP so that you know exactly who you're talking to, what you're talking to, and the offer is dialed in. You have someone else doing the work for you, or you're still doing it, but it's fully documented so that you can delegate it whenever you don't want to do it anymore. And you have a pipeline that stays full, whether you're getting referrals or not. It's a consistent pipeline that works, so you don't have to constantly have to do it and also be at zero and in this fight or flight constantly. Now, I made this sound simple because it is, but the problem that most founders get into is that they just skip all of that foundational work. They jump straight into DMing people. They have a basic ICP created. They have a basic message framework. They don't know exactly what they're offering, and what they start doing is just messaging and burning leads. And the problem with that is they're burning potential people that they definitely could have booked on sales calls, but they're just not doing the foundational work because either they don't like it, they're bored, or they don't know how to do it. And this is why they think or worry about nothing working or that LinkedIn doesn't work. It's because they just don't understand how it actually works. And a lot of the time they have this mindset limiting belief of that they've been burnt before, or they've tried to get help so LinkedIn doesn't work, or it will never work, or a new strategy won't work. And that's just not correct. Every single one of you listening to this, you probably have or do still date someone, but you've all probably had heartbreak and not dated someone, or it didn't work, but you still kept trying to do that one thing, yeah? So why are you trying to focus on your own business and using that goggles that, oh, I tried it once, it can't work? No, sometimes people aren't the right people for you. So sometimes you do invest and it doesn't work, and you need to get over that and keep pushing through if you need to invest to make sure you get the results, because it definitely works. And another thing is they don't maintain consistency. They try it for 1 or 2 weeks and think they're going to miraculously get 5 to 10 sales calls, or even 3 or even 1, and then they give up. And that's not how it works. A consistent pipeline or system takes weeks or even a month or even a couple of months to properly work, but it does work, and you need to stick out and do it. And this breaks the successful business owners to the smaller business owners that struggle, that are in feast and famine. You can't expect things to happen overnight, even if it's correct. The correct systems take time. It doesn't just turn on a magical pill. That's not how it works. So you need to make sure you stick with it and it will work. And what actually ends up happening is they go back to these random activities that they were doing because that was thinking that it was working, but it felt more busy. They're having more fake conversations rather than having proper conversations that actually get sales calls, that actually get money into their pocket consistently a month. And that's just the consistency side. Sometimes they just give up too early as well, just DMing. They send 20 DMs and they think it doesn't work and they're like, I'm done. Or they send 20 content pieces out there and they get 1 or 2 connections or 1 or 2 likes or comments, and then they give up like this is a waste of time. No, that's not how it works. You look at the best influencers or the best people creating content. Some of them took years to get good connections or good likes and comments. Some of them took a couple of months. There's no right or wrong, but if you follow the course, it will work. And the more information you get, the better results you get as well. And another thing as well is they think that this is just something they should outsource rather than understanding it themselves. Or they should build all these fancy funnels and all these type of videos and VSLs when they actually just need to get down and do what works all the time, speaking and having conversation with their ICP and booking on sales calls, rather than creating this magical marketing campaign because they think that they're bloody Walmart or they think that they're Apple. It's not the case. That's what comes after you're making 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month, not when you're not making money or you're barely making it. You just need to do and speak to the most amount of people that you can then help. So if I started from zero today, this is exactly the roadmap that I would follow and what I actually did. I've watched founders understand this roadmap and try to execute it themselves, and within 3 weeks they fall off a cliff. This is because client work gets busy, or they simply just don't fully understand this exact process and they don't understand the system enough to get them to do it. And 3 months later, they're sitting there wondering why their pipeline's empty and they're still getting those random referrals every single day, but their pipeline remains small. The roadmap's not the problem, it's the founder that's the problem, and that they don't understand what actually needs to happen to get the results. That's what the 5-hour sales system solves. I work with you over 90 days to implement this exact framework, the foundations, the outreach, the follow-ups, the content strategy, the offer building, the full client profile building as well. This gets you that 5 to 10 sales calls every single week in that 90-day period. And if you're worried this won't work for your specific industry, I've helped B2B coaches, consultants, executives, business owners that are doing random things all do this on LinkedIn. This framework works because it adapts and uses human psychology, not any specific industry things, and it's based off fundamental sales that have done this for years. You walk away with the complete framework and my brain, not literally, but literally so that you can do this for life. If you want this built with you, instead of trying this all by yourself, there's a link in the description. The difference between founders that build predictable systems and stay in feast or famine and have a system that's not running either when they're busy or not, don't spend 6 months trying to figure this out alone.